Welcome back to Beyond the Buzzer. I'm Dave Glavin here with Shay Sullivan. Shay, how are we today?
Especially good considering this is a trade deadline episode. So
Probably a top 3 NBA day of the year, would you say?
uh, top two. I
Top
mean,
2, that and the start of free agency.
yeah, that's the most exciting time.
I would argue that this is probably the most exciting trade deadline of our lifetimes. Tough to
Yeah,
compare because of the Luka deal. Obviously, that's going to put it in front of other deadlines, but I want to start there. We've talked a lot about this off air this week. Had some time to process it. I think it's been 5 days.
yep.
You have the floor.
Well, you know how I feel about this, but let me present like just no names attached. You have a 25-year-old who carried his team. I'll say carried. He carried the Mavericks last year to the finals. He beat some really tough teams on the way. He's already set a ton of postseason records in terms of individual statistics. You know, in his prior runs, he's been doing this for a while. So, you know, no names attached. That's who you're sending out. Based on what we've seen in the league recently, in terms of hauls for these superstar players. I mean, I just think of Kevin Durant, like what the Nets were able to acquire for him. And you get a 31-year-old center who's going to be 32 in March, who has, I would say, substantial injury concerns. Like the dude's always hurt. He's hurt right now. Maybe he's coming back. I think he just he's not going to play Thursday, or he's not going to make his debut, something like that. And Max Christie, who I actually do like, that's an upside player. And then a first-round pick, 2031. If Luke is really there, committed, like you and I both think he is, that pick's probably not going to be worth much. That's a low-risk trade or a low-risk asset for the Lakers. So overall, I think the Lakers could have the Mavericks could have gotten a ton more back. The reason why they made this trade is because they want to suck. Mark Cuban sold most of the team away. These new owners, big gambling guys, there's a huge opportunity for them. They don't want to be good. Luka Doncic, he's had problems with the Mavericks the last, 2 years at this point. There's that video going around of who is that guy? He used to play in the NBA, taking the beer.
Finley taking his beer.
Yeah, like stuff like that. They just fired all of his personal trainers, all of Luka Doncic's guys. They just fired them all. And you know what? He was back in LA last night, right? That game was last night.
Yeah.
And guess who was in the building? All of Luka's guys. They're all back. You know, it's a weird trade. In terms of value, the Mavericks got absolutely screwed in the long term. Now, the angle I think you're going to go at this from is the short term, which I don't have much of an argument for. So, you know, I guess you'll present that. I can't really dispute it, but it that is the only selling point.
Each day that the trade goes by, I like this Dallas roster more and more for this season and next season. I can't argue with you that 10 years from now, this is good for them, but it's completely dependent on if Luka changes who he is as a person, which is not being talked about enough. He's been in their system for what, 6 years? I think he's 5-team first. This might be his 7th year because he's a 5-time All-NBA first-team guy. So I think he didn't make it his rookie year. This is his 7th year. You know who he is by now. In the NBA Finals last year, yes, he dragged that team to the finals, beat some really good teams. They had to make up a stat for how bad he was defensively. I've never seen blow-by percentage ever talked about before. He quit on his team the game he fouled out. That was all on him. He's supposed to be a top 2, top 3, top 5 player in the league. You can't foul out in the NBA Finals. So this year, he's had the calf injury 2 times, 3 times, and it's clearly a result of his own care for his conditioning. This summer, they're supposed to present him with the Supermax. How can you give that guy the Supermax? I understand the regular season accolades, the career up till 25. Your culture for your team starts from the top down. Have we seen a title winning team in the last 15 years where the top guy isn't conditioned and isn't setting the standard? I'm not saying he's not still he's overweight and he's still a top 5 player in the league, which is crazy.
Yes. Yeah.
But it's all about putting up banners at the end of the day. It should be all about putting up banners at the end of the day. And I think Anthony Davis gives them a better chance to do that in the short term, especially when the number 2 is Kyrie and is also 31, 32.
It's a short window.
Yes. If Luka goes on, wins 3 rings with LA, Harrison goes down in history probably with the worst trade ever. But they shorted Luka's career, and it is a ballsy move. But I'm a fan of it. I love Christie. I think he himself is worth 1 to 2 first round picks, depending on how strong the picks are. Not all picks are created equal. But when you talk about that Kevin Durant haul, I think that was the equivalent of 10 or 11. And I don't think we'll ever get back to something like that based on what they got for McHale, because that inflated it. For Dallas, another thing not being talked about enough, AD moving back to the 4. His primary position, the position he's been talking about wanting to play ever since they won the title. Who was running the offense when they won the title? Jay Kidd. Now he's coaching Dallas.
Yep.
I have questions about 2 non-3-point shooting bigs on the floor in 2025. But I'm willing to figure that out when I have a top 3 defensive unit on paper. We haven't seen it yet. But a top 3 defensive unit anchored by an all-time great defensive big.
Those are fair points. Yeah, I mean, I do like the Mavericks going forward, but and the other thing that makes me not love this trade as much for the Lakers, it's not a win now move for them either, in my opinion. I think we'll get into this trade, but I feel like they also panicked to replace Anthony Davis. Like, if you're sending out Anthony Davis, you need a replacement back. I think it's kind of laughable, or not. I mean, what do you expect? I wish they could have gotten, either Gafford or Lively back. It's not really ideal, or that's a perfect world for them. But, it's a move for the Lakers that if you're giving up AD, you got to have a replacement. So in the back of your mind, you're not only just giving up AD in this trade, you've got to give up, as we found out, a first round pick and you're getting back another center who's not as good as AD. Let's just face it. So Luka Doncic, I agree with you. Not, there's questions to be had about his game, but in my opinion, he is worth way more than what the Lakers ended up having to give up. So for the Lakers, I give them A+. They totally won the trade, in my opinion. Even if Luka Doncic, I mean, it's tough to say. It's tough to predict his career because they'll be in a whole different spot. The Lakers will in 3 years when LeBron is most likely gone.
You'd hope.
Yeah, you'd hope. And the whole roster's up for reconstruction with a lot of money on the table. But right now, it scares me. AD, and you sent me this tweet, and I'm sure you're going to get into this too. He might have been totally okay with this move, which also creates a whole nother angle to this trade as well.
Yeah, that was the tweet that referenced him waiving his whole trade bonus, which would have been paid by the Lakers, but it would have hit Dallas's cap sheet, so it gave them some flexibility. I think if you're the Lakers, you do this 10 times out of 10, regardless of if you have LeBron on the roster,
Oh
just for
yeah.
the future and
Mhm.
for the market. As far as Dallas, I agree 100%. How do you not get, they got the 29 first. How do you not get the 31 and 2 swaps as well? They said it was because the Lakers couldn't negotiate with Luka to see if he'd want to be there long term, which was fair from LA's side, but LA knows. I mean, he's going to sign an extension, whether it's a 2+1 or a 4-year deal. He's going to be there for more than just the rest of this year and next year, barring some crazy circumstances. But I love the Mavericks this year and next year.
And next year?
I think of it as a 2 to 3 year push for contention. I mean, does playing the 4 extend the end of AD's prime a little bit?
Maybe by a little bit. Half a season maybe. If he can avoid getting injured, yeah.
And do you think they could have gotten a player better than AD right now in a return?
No, they couldn't have. But that's in terms of health risk, maybe. Anthony Davis, we're still talking about Anthony Davis, 31, about to be 32. Kyrie, end of his prime. This team is in the gutter in 2 or 3 years. Like, I don't trust either of these guys at 35. And yeah, you have 2 young centers who are borderline stars. You could argue Gafford's 25, 26. So
Gafford, I think he's a little older. I'm not sure exactly how old he is. I know Lively, I mean, he's probably the best. Gafford's 26, you're right. Lively is like 22. I mean, that's a building block for 10 years.
absolutely, from what he's shown so far. But I'm interested this year. I think it's hard to set expectations, and it's why I don't love this trade even for the Mavericks, because you get Anthony Davis in February, who he's still hurt. Hopefully, he comes back soon, but that team's gonna take some chemistry. And not only are you adding Anthony Davis, you're subtracting Luka Doncic, who is a ball dominant. Like, the guy had the ball in his hands the entire game, and it's going to be the same in LA as well, which I think may present problems. We'll see with the Lakers, but that's going to be huge. It's going to be huge. New play style. Kyrie, I think, is actually going to excel, which makes me excited for the Mavericks. But I mean, it's going to take time. We've seen it. You can't just string together a bunch of stars, make a move like this, and expect to be fully gelled by June if you make it that far. So that's why next year, you're right. That might be the year. But
especially, I mean, based on the trades we've seen in the past, it takes even a year to kind of feel everything out. So I am definitely skeptical of them being able to put the offense in particular together. But defensively, I feel like that transfers over quicker.
huge.
And I would argue they have one of the better wing departments in terms of just big physical wings that can knock down threes. PJ Washington picked up Caleb Martin, still have Najee Marshall, who's a solid rotation guy. Betting a lot on Jaden Hardy to take the next step as a legit microwave scorer.
It's risky.
But I mean, they gave him an extension. I believe it was last summer.
They believe in him, but I don't know. I don't think he is the guy they. You have to minimize his role. Yeah, maybe he is an X factor come, late postseason, even any postseason series. But I think it's got to be Kyrie, Klay Thompson. You've got guys that have won before. All 3 of those guys have won before on separate teams. Now they're here. You're not questioning if they know how to win. You're questioning if those, if they can gel together and find that winning recipe, which should be easier for guys that have already won. They know what it takes which is why I'm very excited. I'm going to say, I keep saying it. I'm very excited for this Mavericks team. They're easy to root for. I have no problem with Kyrie. I like AD. Klay Thompson,
I mean,
that's a fun
you
story.
know I'm biased towards it because they've got Kyrie and AD.
Yeah, I mean, that's a thing about this team 5 years ago. What a squad. But now we're here, and it's kind of their last run. I'm rooting for them. I think they're going to be good, but come 2-3 more years, you're screwed, and that's exactly what the Mavericks want. They're going to take advantage of being awful. Think about all the fans they just completely burned. Luka Doncic, he was supposed to be a Maverick for life, and man, it's tough. Cleveland experienced it when you trade away or lose a superstar caliber player like that. And if the fans think they got screwed, if this doesn't work out well, the Mavericks are they're gonna be a tough spot. They're leaving a big market, which is questionable as well. But
You think you're drinking the Kool-Aid on the move to Vegas?
I'm drinking the Kool-Aid and the move to Vegas. The guys who bought it, Mark Cuban, he came out in an interview as well. He said, he's got no idea what the hell they're doing. He has no contact. He is not involved anymore in that aspect of things. And we know he's come out and said before he's a big Doncic guy. He was supposed to be Maverick for life. Clearly, this move follows the selling of the team / transfer of operations in the Mavericks organization. Like that, this move doesn't happen if the first thing doesn't happen. So
yeah, I think I might have sent you that thread about them wanting to get to a gambling hotspot. They can build a casino resort arena. I liked that idea, or I kind of gave it some juice before I thought about the expansion fee that each NBA team gets for adding a new team.
but you've been all over this from the get-go. They don't want Vegas. They'll get a team to move to Vegas. They want big cities, Mexico City.
Dallas is like the fourth or fifth biggest market in the league.
No, I agree. That would be kind of insane to leave. But what other Texas? You got Houston.
Dallas is number one when it comes to the Texas markets.
So do you really lose a lot though? Maybe those guys become Rockets fans. They're going to be absorbing a ton of new fans, even if they expand. In the other cities you mentioned. If we get a team back in Canada, or Mexico City, these other spots, I don't know. Is it really a huge loss? I'm not sure. I think this move, sending Luka to the Lakers, it's a conspiracy theorist like dream. Like that's the NBA's baby. It's like their best franchise, their favorite franchise. You'll make sure they are relevant for the next 15 years. If Luka stays the course at this point, you can build around him. Right now, it's LeBron, but in 3 to 5 years, it's going to be someone else. Basically, like we've talked about with Wemby, like who are you surrounding the superstar with down the line? And LeBron is a great person to learn from. So I think it could be a great situation for the Lakers. Like you said, 10 out of 10, you got to do this move. And for Dallas, I actually don't hate it. I don't hate it, but overall, I'm skeptical long term, at least.
If it doesn't result in a championship, it's a failure.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I think obviously it alienated a lot of fans. I would have loved to have been inside the locker room on a daily basis to see how he operates as the leader of the team.
And I'm going to be honest, you're probably onto something because he probably wasn't that guy that he needed to be to win now.
And we know Kyrie, he's not a head honcho that's going to lead a group. We saw it in Boston. He wanted that. It didn't work, which is no dig on him. Some people are better as a number 2 or a number 3.
Yeah.
But I think the Lakers are also making a bet that I'm not sure there's a better guy to mentor Luka than LeBron. Get him on the Bron meal plan immediately.
Yeah.
Shed some of that weight, but very interesting to see how this is going to turn out. Do you want to talk about the Williams deal?
Yeah, might as well. That kind of coincides with this.
So I was Connect Cam Reddish, 2031 unprotected first, and I believe a 2030 swap. I think initial thoughts, obviously, I was excited because he was a highly touted pick. He's missed a lot of time. You showed me he's metric wise a terrible defender, but I'm betting on the Lakers' development of young players, and I'm betting against any notion of Charlotte being good at developing players because it's been pathetic.
do you think the Lakers gave up a lot? Like, what do you think the Lakers? Do you think?
So based on what I'm seeing, Luka had a sit down meeting with their leadership, and he talked about wanting to play with a lob threat,
Which
versatile
Mark
big
Williams
guy,
is? Yeah,
which Mark Williams is. I mean, he's had some big games this year. He's put together a healthy stretch for the first time in his career, and I'm just surprised that they took what he asked and did it in 24 hours.
they had to. They had to.
So I think doing that, they're less concerned about the picks and they're prioritizing more once Braun is out. Let's have the best roster possible to get the second star in free agency, like the old Lakers way.
That's fair.
People are going to want to come to LA to play with Luka, to play with this dynamic team. And I think Mark Williams has a chance to fit that. I never loved the Connect fit. Well, I like the fit with LeBron and AD, an older player ready to play right now. But as soon as they moved AD, it didn't really make sense because Connect can't defend anybody.
No, but he so my take on the trade, Dalton Connect plays perfectly off LeBron. All
Yes.
in his career, LeBron needs a shooter to be that guy. Now you replace AD with a shooter like Luka Doncic is going to get his shots up no matter what, and he's a ball hog. He needs the ball in his hands.
Yeah.
So I think this move, like you're saying, absolutely is towards Luka. It's not right now.
Every move going forward is for Luka.
Yes, but
Yeah.
here's my issue. I think it was almost a panic move toward, we still have LeBron. We got to make sure he's happy. We're not winning anything without a center. It's not happening.
Yeah.
So I think they overpaid, number one. And number two, Mark Williams is a borderline starter on a, we've seen him on the Hornets, but have we ever seen him in a real playoff series? Have we ever seen him competing against the best of the best in the West? No. Lakers are going to slot in 6 to 8, somewhere in there. You're going to be facing one of these premier centers in the league, whether it's Jokic, who's up there, the Thunder, Sabonis. You have we'll see about them. They did not look good with that Levine debut.
Just talking about centers.
Yeah. I mean, Chet, Isaiah
Hartenstein's aggressive.
Yeah, I don't love it. Like he's the 11th percentile. He's a terrible rim protector. He's not good on defense. Is that culture? Possibly. The Hornets as a whole are a joke defensively. Like, how are you going to excel defensively when the rest of your team is just traffic cones out there and they're just letting guys go right by them? Sure,
where draft picks go to die.
I buy that take. So, yeah, it's an upside play. He could easily take a huge step back. We could see this guy fail in the spotlight. You still are dealing with LeBron, Luka. You're going to be in a playoff series. Does he get exposed? Is that kind of where his career ends up dying? I'm not super high on him. I like the pickup. I don't like how much they had to give up for him. I thought it was kind of a panic move to be relevant this year. It's a high upside play as well, which is the Lakers side of it. That's why you make the move. But overall, I think there was other centers, and I was saying we should wait to see if any other big name centers are moved. Miles Turner, Vucevic, any of these other guys. It didn't happen. Maybe they heard, yeah, these guys aren't available. We don't like your package. It's not happening. Was this the only guy available at the trade deadline? I don't know.
For
So
the price that they wanted to pay contract-wise, I think. And I think Vucevic would solve nothing for them. He's probably the worst defender out of anybody at the big man position that you could have gotten.
agree. But you probably have to give up less.
Offensively, what's up?
You probably have to give up less for Vucevic, right?
Absolutely, you give up less, but is it even worth it? Like, do you even need what he brings anymore after Luka?
No.
Pre Luka, I would have said, yeah, that could be an option, but because you have AD. But post Luka, I don't think Vucevic made any sense. I would have loved like Claxton or Turner. I mean, Turner's the best case scenario, but I don't think Claxton they had the contracts to match because they really like Rui. I'm hoping that because of the Luka trade, Rui will accept the bench role as like 6 man because DFS has to start
In this,
defensively.
yeah. Oh yeah, in this lineup.
Yeah. So
It's a joke.
you'll go
Defensively, they're a
Doncic,
joke.
Reeves, DFS, Braun, Mark, Rui,
Oh,
Gabe, Vando. That's your
oh,
playoff rotation.
fade all day. That lineup is horrendous defensively.
How many points are they putting up a game?
120,
Minimum.
115, 120, somewhere in there.
Minimum.
But you're giving up one. Who is your best defender?
Dorian Finney-Smith. So it's
That's disgusting.
not great.
And he's a wing, an old wing. Like I don't know. It's tough. It's tough. If Mark Williams, like that's what you needed if you wanted to be super relevant this year, you go after a guy who's a defensive anchor. It's not.
Yeah, if
Mark.
he can make strides as a rim protector, they have a much better shot this year. I agree 100% that this is a LeBron play. Like you still have him on the team. We have to try to be relevant still. But if you trade for Luka and you have LeBron who can veto any trade and he wants to be here, do you make this move for Williams or make the move for nobody?
That's the question. Like, how valuable is this pick going to look in this offseason, that 2031 pick? In is there going to be more guys available this offseason? That's my only other question. I'm not super educated on that, but at this point, you were right. It's Mark Williams. You got to get someone rather than nothing.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's all going to depend. The whole Luka AD trade will depend on his attitude towards conditioning.
But they already have his guys in there.
His guys, even if his guys have been there the whole time, I'd fire those guys and get some new guys.
No, the Mavericks fired him. They were like, yeah, your guys suck. Get them out. And it's kind of like the TB12 thing. TB12 had his guy. I think this will be a looser.
No, that is nothing like the TB12 thing. TB12 was in phenomenal shape.
Yeah,
Luka
that is
Doncic
fair.
is fat.
All right, but we're talking happiness. We're keeping
his guys
happy.
His guys feeding him ice cream and cookies and beer. Come on.
Yeah, but it worked. He still carried his team. Yeah, fine. It isn't what you.
They had no shot of beating the C's, which maybe even with a conditioned Luka, they had no shot. But
I think they did. I think they had a chance. I think they legit could have beat the Celtics. I think what really screwed them over was the timing of that series. They were on a roll and they had to wait. That whole series took a long time.
You think if they had played whenever it would have been beneficial for the Mavericks, Luka would have been better defensively?
I'm not going to say
targeting him on every play.
It was the Celtics year. They were going to win. They were the better team. But we looked at the Mavericks, the last two series, and we said they had no chance, and they ended up winning both of those series.
Absolutely.
Which, the Celtics are easily God. I'm shocked. I thought it was a letdown performance for the Mavericks, honestly. I thought that was going to be a closer series. I thought the Mavericks would have had a chance for sure.
I think it just highlighted like how much of an issue it really is if your best player is that much of a liability on one end of the court.
That's true, but you don't want to overreact. And I think this was not. It was an overreaction. I think maybe they were just done with Luka. This new regime said, you know what, this is how we're going to do things, and he's not on our
But
list.
if you're preparing to give this guy the richest contract in NBA history, don't you think he should care about his conditioning?
I think he should, but that's got to happen internally. You got to correct that internally because he
My guess is they
deserves
tried.
he deserves the richest contract. I mean, that guy. I mean, you draft a guy 6th overall. Was he 6 or 4, something like that?
3. They flipped with Trae Young.
3, yeah. So
Yeah.
he's lived up to everything you want him to do. He's an international guy. He's got a huge fan base. We got to
I
move
don't
on.
disagree with like the fan popularity aspect at all. You're trading possibly the most popular player globally.
At this point, yes.
Yeah. But the winning side of it is what I'm backing. But at the same time, he made a finals and he made a conference finals 2 years ago. So that's getting close.
Could they win or go to the finals this year? I think yes. So
Yeah.
in the short term, you're not losing a lot, and you're gaining assets if that's the route you want to go.
Gaining a completely new identity as a team.
So say things work out, you make to the Western Conference Finals this year, you lose. Do you look to flip AD? Like, is that their main?
No.
So
You give
what
it
is
another year.
AD's worth probably 4 or 5 firsts, right? Or is that crazy?
5. Yeah.
So if you look at it that way, Luka was worth 5 firsts and Max Christie in an extra first. If that's the route they want to go, which I think they should give this a chance, even next year, if he has a great year, that's when you sell high on him, and you got to look future based. Like this, you can't let this ride out in now.
I don't disagree that if this year or next year they don't make a trip to the finals, that you don't look to pivot. I mean, at that point, it's like a 34-year-old Kai and AD. I
which
agree
are
100%.
valuable. Yeah.
But I also don't. I think they're going to make an NBA Finals in the next 2 years
I
and
could
win.
see it. I could see it. I don't think it's happening though. I too injury prone at this point.
Fully healthy, do you think a team in the West matches up better, like OKC?
I think it's the Mavericks conference to lose at this point, fully healthy. And if we factor in chemistry, these guys get to play together for a little bit here. Then yeah, it's their conference to lose, absolutely. But it's also easily losable because you can get hurt. These guys get hurt all. We'll see if even if AD plays for a week, 2 weeks, gets hurt, he's out 2 weeks. Now he's back. Now we're talking chemistry. How much has AD really played with these guys going into the playoffs? Like, it has to be a perfect world for the Mavericks to win the finals, which is crazy. That is actually a realistic thing, though. So you're right.
Perfect health with Kyrie and AD. I agree.
They could.
Which is asking a lot.
It is, but they have the potential to do that. So,
do you want to talk about Fox? I know we probably got like 20 minutes.
Yeah, we can talk Fox. San Antonio.
I think they won their first game last night. Went down to last possession. Big game for Fox. Yeah, like 24 and 13 assists maybe.
Yep.
Thoughts on that move?
We talked about it last show, right? And we were like, we were kind of iffy on it. Really depending on the package the Spurs had to give up. Now that we've seen it, love it. You didn't have to give up really
anything of value, which is so frustrating for the other teams. I mean, Chicago, we know that they're run by people that will not be hired again in a role like that. and Sacramento is owned by someone who just wants to fill seats and has no intentions of actually making it to a serious level of the playoffs. That team is built for the play-in, light the beam, play no defense, and try to put up as many points as possible.
Maybe could make a run here and there. Nothing significant, but I agree with you. Like that's the build.
Yeah, like there's no serious thoughts at even making it out of the first round. I think you'd have to get a team that's hampered with injuries to beat one of those top 4 seeds. If they
Yeah.
even make it out of the play-in.
Yeah, I don't hate their roster, but you're right. It's not.
They don't have a point guard.
No.
They're starting 3 shooting guards. They already saw what worked in Chicago with Levine and DeRozan and said, let's run it back.
Mm-hmm.
With Malik Monk and Domantas Sabonis, who's fantastic, but not a good defender. Poor Keegan Murray has to guard everybody.
And he has not been good on offense this year.
No. So I don't know how you don't get the swap that you somehow San Antonio landed in the DeRozan to Sacramento deal in 2031. I don't know how that's not the first thing that's on the board that is a necessary thing for you to even send De'Aaron there. You don't get a single young player. You don't get a single good pick. They've got 3 Atlanta picks in the next 3 years. You don't get a single one of those. I think it's embarrassing. But they got Zach LaVine, so they can make the play in.
You've said it all. That was, I don't know. Sums it up. San Antonio.
Smart front offices run circles around incompetent and front offices that don't want to win championships.
It's a no-brainer. Like, pick up the superstar who can, even if it flops, even if in 3 years you're like, you know what, he doesn't fit really well with Wemby, you can move on. You didn't give up that much. It wasn't like you invested a whole lot into this really working. It's actually great for Wemby. You can play with, they've already made that team so much better than it was last year, and they're doing it by, like you said, running circles around other front offices. They haven't had to do much. They've gotten CP3 in there, who is, Hall of Famer, maybe, right? That's tough for me to say. He's a Hall of Famer. Okay, but,
Tough to judge him because on the biggest stages, he's collapsed so many times, but you got to give him his flowers for what he did in OKC and what he's doing right now in terms of mentorship.
At this point, the Spurs could make the playoffs. I wouldn't rule that out. I might actually take it. I think that's a real good bet.
I would pick them over Phoenix. I would pick them over Sacramento.
Yep.
Golden State is a question mark. We'll get to that. I know you want to talk Jimmy.
Yes.
We could right now.
Well, let's finish. So finish these teams off. The Kings end up getting LaVine.
Yep.
What'd you think about that deal?
I think it's silly. Like, what is your end goal?
They said they wanted to win now. That was what they said. If
win
they're
what?
Fox, be competitive.
What are they winning? Yeah.
You're right.
The 9-10 game? Sure. Great season. See you next year.
And they'll be there again.
Yeah. No, it frustrates me that people aren't either. I understand it's a business and you have to fill the arena, but fans, like real basketball fans, should understand that there's ups and downs, and to get back up, you have to go down.
Yep.
Elite talent in this draft and the next draft. Put yourself in the best position possible to get one of those guys and build for a sustainable future. Don't build for the 8 seed. It's silly.
I feel like with this move, at least the Bulls took a step in that direction. Finally.
Yeah, I mean, we've been giving him shit for years about not picking a direction. Is this the return? Like getting their own first round pick back for Levine, DeRozan, and Caruso? No, it's not. But they picked their direction. Fine. At least they're showing some signs of doing the right thing. But if they didn't get involved, San Antonio would have had to give up way more to get Fox. But the Kings, I mean, it was the Kings and the Bulls that let that happen
So,
twice.
so the
Twice.
Kings.
The Rosen thing, too.
You're right. So the Kings are the new Bulls of the West. It's not Portland.
I think we got a 2-team tie for Bulls of the West.
Portland
is, I mean, they've won like 9 of the last 10, something like that.
Yep.
They're looking up. Did you guys do anything
No.
at the deadline? No.
Nothing. Zero. No. Big zero.
Nothing. Literally nothing.
Yeah, we were riding it out.
Bulls of the West. Bulls of the West. This trade for the Bulls was their first midseason trade since 2021. Yeah, no,
that's bad.
I understand that Grant and Ayton are probably not movable based on their salary figure and what they actually contribute, but you got to shake up something and give Scoot, Shaden, Tumani, and Klingon the time to actually see if they're guys.
Denny's
a guy. Like I think he's proven that he can be a legit guy for them to, I mean, not build around, not that level, but someone you want to have long term. Same with Tumani. I think Tumani's showing flashes. Scoot's playing better. Shaden, I feel like, has dealt with a lot of injuries. I'd like to see a solid like half-year stretch where he can be on the floor.
Start even, maybe.
I don't love Simon's fit with them. Are we really going to do another 2 small guard backcourt?
I'm surprised he wasn't moved, or at least one of those guys. Honestly.
Talked about it. Anything. I mean, he's going into his last year of his deal next year. Maybe that's an off-season thing. But I want to talk about Jimmy to Golden State.
Yep.
Listen to an ESPN podcast today that said that a 3-team deal was very close. They didn't say like
it was done,
almost happening, but
I'm willing to say it was done.
You're willing to say it was done. All right. Where KD would go to Golden State, Jimmy would go to Phoenix, and basically the other assets that Miami got would go to Miami. Wiggins, filler, a pick. KD didn't want to go to Golden State.
He shut it down. He was the one that was the same kind of report I heard. He said no way.
Which is interesting. I mean, it must just be a irreparable relationship. My guess with Draymond, but because I feel like him and Steph are still, we saw it in the Olympics, unless they were just faking it for the Olympics. But
no, I don't think they were faking it. I think you're right that it's, I wouldn't say possibly, but
I feel like it has to be to say no to this, because if Phoenix wouldn't be in a better position, staying where he's at versus going to play with Steph. Again.
Well, I think Phoenix is the better situation. You got a better situation.
You're anti-Steve, though.
I'm anti-Steve and I'm anti-Warriors. Like, they have, talk about a team with no direction. They have refused to pick a direction the last 5 years with their core. They've let Clay walk.
5 years. They want a ring.
They want a ring, but it's never going to happen. They're not good enough at this point.
No, but you can't say last 5 years when they were at the top.
All right, so 3 years maybe?
Post-ring?
Post-ring. And that was I won't say lucky run, but that was a Steph Curry, this is my time type run.
That's a legacy run.
It's a legacy run for Steph Curry.
Probably shouldn't have won, but that's great player took over.
And it worked out. So, yeah.
Got the best out of Wiggins that anybody has gotten.
I mean, he's a shell of himself at this point. That's why, we predicted Jimmy would be worth nothing. It's basically what happened, because the Heat gave up, the Warriors gave up nothing to get this guy.
Nothing long term.
Nothing even in the short term. Wiggins,
Lottery
no
pick. I mean,
thanks.
they're not making the playoffs.
Well, that's the game you play at this
Yeah.
point.
Top 10 protected pick next year and the year after. Wiggins, who is not the level. I'd say he's the level like at what they traded him when they got him. He's back to that.
Which is shocking.
Yeah. Just based on where he was. Absolutely. Dealt with a lot of personal stuff last year that definitely had an effect. Jimmy, Steph, Draymond. You starting Pajemski at the 2
Out.
and a non-shooting big unless they're rolling with BC legend Quentin Post.
Out.
Exactly. That unless it's a pissed off Jimmy Butler.
Out. I'm still out. I mean, he can be pissed off. They could best case win one playoff series if this team plays.
Okay, so yeah, still make it
And win a series against an inexperienced 3 seed if they get the 6 or
Houston.
something like that. Yeah, maybe something like that. But there's no way they just don't have enough to compete in anything serious. So
I agree with that. And I think giving him the extension too, like you're signing away the end of Steph Curry's career.
And maybe Jimmy is the right guy to do that with, but I think it's kind of a force again, another panicky move. Like you got your star player, you gotta make a move. The trade had been released late last night that or whenever it was that Wiggins, that whole thing with Kevin Durant shut it down. Wiggins hears that, he says, all right, the team's trying to trade me. At this point, you got to trade him anyways. It's probably why they had to give up a little much more than they had to, but smart move by the Heat. Good. I mean, good on them for getting as much back as they could.
For a guy that's not even playing, can't even bring in the locker room.
No. So good for them.
Yeah, I mean, I think Miami, they'll never tear it all the way down, which I know I'm getting on Sacramento and I'm getting on Chicago. I think it's different when you've won.
And
You've awarded yourself the ability to do that when you've won.
Yeah, absolutely.
But they're the same. I mean, when you have a coach like that, I guess you can't really rebuild and tear it all the way down. But
unless he wants out soon too, which that could be in the near future.
There'd have to be a parting of ways, I think. But you have Hero and Bam, so like you can't rebuild. They're in a tough spot. Like they're not going to compete with Boston, Cleveland, New York, even Milwaukee, I think. But they'll always be a tough out because of the coaching advantage. You want to touch on Ingram or the Kuzma deal? We got about 5 minutes left.
Yeah, we can go through them quick. Kuzma, I don't know. That's all I'm going to say. I don't know. That's the one deal this trade deadline that I am like, I don't know. I wouldn't be shocked if this works out really well for one of these teams, but honestly, I have no idea. I think it's kind of like
I think you talked about it. I mean, Washington's terrible. Similar to maybe a Mark Williams situation where it's hard to judge them in that environment. But he's been bad.
He's been bad. So it's one bad asset for another.
Yeah. Ingram, what are the Raptors doing?
So to be fair and give them some credit, I think they will still be bad this year. Like this team,
16-35, I'd assume so.
They'll get a lottery pick, probably top 5, right?
Top 5, top 8. I mean, that's like why if he comes back this year, I think he's still out with the ankle thing. Why make it a worse pick?
I don't think it'll be that much worse, but long
Probably a
term.
buy low, sell high move in like 2
Yeah.
years.
Yes, you have a guy on your team that's legit, Ingram. You're not a laughing stock anymore, which is what you are. I mean, that's selling seats right there. That's all that move is.
Yeah, it's just a weird move.
And then Marcus Smart,
Marcus Smart.
irrelevant.
I mean, is this going to be an Al Horford thing?
He's worthless, dude. Do you see what he went for?
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
And to think that the C's traded him for 2 firsts and Porzingis.
Wow. Not good. And I also just saw quickly on Twitter Ben Simmons getting bought out.
Wow.
With Cavaliers and Clippers as potential suitors. Funny. That's all that is. That's a little.
I'm rooting for him to do something, contribute somewhere.
He'll have a chance to.
Going to be weekly Thursday episodes. Going to figure out where we can get these. For now, it's just YouTube. But yeah, anything else before we head out?
No, that's it. Yeah, see you next week. Go. I got the Eagles this Sunday, but that's
Chiefs,
about it.
come on.
All right, fair. We'll see how it goes next week.
Betting against Mahomes.
Yep.
See you next week.
I didn't do it last week. I'm doing it this week.
Fair. Peace.
Peace.